Top story this week. Ole, 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 ole. There's a pope, 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 ba-doo-doo, doo-ba-doo-doo, but there's a pope, 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 doo-ba-doo-doo, doo-ba-doo-doo, doo-ba-doo. Well, Andy, the papal conclave.
That was very much the unspoken subtext of all the news reports. That were
Yes, yes, that's right. They just didn't have the balls to actually say it or sing it, say it. Andy, the papal conclave clearly didn't take too long to put his fingers down his throat and throw up a pope. Because on Wednesday, after just 2 days of discussion, white smoke billowed out of the Sistine Chapel, and the Catholic Church took a bold new step into the future by electing an old white man with reactionary views on homosexuality and birth control. But wait, this one speaks Spanish, so it's different. Ole, 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 ole. There's a pope, pope, pope. So, who the Pope, Andy? Well, Jorge Mareo Bergoglio, he the Pope. Or, as he is now called, Pope Francis, or Rome's most eligible bachelor. If you like the thrill of the chase, ladies, look no further than Pope Francis. There is a man who is playing really hard to get.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice of name. After almost 2,000 years of waiting, we finally have the first ever Pope Frank, which is great news for everyone. As you say, they did. They concleft the shit out of that decision. They really concleft it beautifully, or concleved it. I don't know. What's the past tense of that?
I like concleved. I mean, that sounds, but they both sound nice. They're both nice to say, but I'd go concleved.
He's the first ever Pope from South America, Argentinian, from Buenos Aires, Bishop of Buenos Aires, and in his opening Pope speech, my Latin's a little bit rusty, but the first thing he said was, we in the Vatican City now lay claim to the Falkland Islands. So, and then he's also a big hip-hop fan. He wowed the crowd by saying, I love it when you call me Big Popper. So, and he also said this, these rather touching words. He said, this is a wonderful journey from infinity back to infinity. And, sorry, no, that wasn't actually the Pope who said that. That was a deranged man talking to himself on the tube on the way in today who said that. But it could have been the Pope. Oh. And I think, who does that tell you more about? The Pope or the man on the tube?
Well, it tells us an equal amount about both of them, Andy.
And the fact that I wrote it down, it probably tells you something about me.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's much more... The bigger lesson is there. So let's take a closer look at the man who has seized this opportunity with both flippers, and the man who will presumably have asked the question on his very first morning as Pope that all of us want an answer to, which is, how, with all the money that the Vatican has, do they not have robot butlers? It just makes no sense, Andy. So there's a lot of firsts that this Pope is. Yep. Pope Francis is the first ever Pope Francis. He's also the first Jesuit to be Pope. Also the first Pope from outside Europe in 1,000 years, over 1,000 years. Also the first Pope from the Americas. Also apparently the first Pope to have Wind Beneath My Wings as his karaoke, and I quote, go-to tune.
Also, John, he's the first Pope with only one lung.
Yes, so, that's true.
Which is wonderful because, clearly they're reaching out to the Catholic community in South America, reaching out beyond the Vatican's traditional papal breeding grounds of Europe to more of the world's 1.2 billion Catholics, and also reaching out to animals who only have one lung, which predominantly are snakes, as we know from my stag weekend in Scotland. And but it's good to see that bridge being built by the Catholic Church, finally, because it's been tricky between us and the snakes ever since the whole Eve and the apple business. But, so that's great to choose a pope who can relate, who snakes can relate to on just in terms of, body issue. Yeah,
well, he apparently had a lung removed when he was a teenager due to an infection, which means he's a one-lung pope. And that really sticks it to the other cardinals, Andy, who couldn't become pope even though they had twice as many lungs as he did. I mean, it's pathetic when you think about it.
Also, the first pope for over 300 years to have a tattoo. From some angles, it looks like Jesus blessing a donkey, but from others, it looks like Jane Mansfield in a bikini cleaning a car windscreen. But that's the 1950s for you, isn't it?
Well, let's look at his Pope stats, Andy. He can fire off 32 prayers a minute with no warm-up. He's batting .326 at getting prayers into heaven with those prayers in scoring position. He takes a papal robe-sized medium and a papal headgear-sized maximum. He can run 100 metres in full papal regalia in less than 45 seconds, and his record in fistfights with other popes is currently 0 wins, 0 losses, but that may be amended after he meets with Pope Benedict. We'll have to re-up those stats. He was very much an outsider at becoming Pope. Most betting sites had him at around 33-1. So congratulations if for some inexplicable reason you were betting on that. That would be
Why wouldn't you bet on it?
It would be an amazingly strange response, Andy. Someone in St. Peter's Square as the news came out, and the new Pope is Jorge Mario Bergoglio. Yes! Yes! Well, I'm so glad you feel so passionately that he's the right choice for the church. Oh, never mind that. I just won 300 grand. Hallelujah!
Well, I don't know if you saw that there was a lot of litter in St. Peter's Square after the crowd had dispersed. Maybe it's just a load of betting slips torn up.
Oh, shit.
Bloody.
I thought the Brazilian was a shoo-in. Perhaps that's why the Cardinals were not allowed cell phones in there, Andy. You didn't want them to be tempted to go in big just before the white smoke went up. It is a little strange that he was seen as such a long shot, as he was apparently the second choice of the conclave that elected Pope Benedict 8 years ago. So, never the bridesmaid, never the bride, Andy, but now he's the Pope. He's Gary Goblet Service. He's God's official answer phone. I'm afraid God's not available right now, but if you leave a message with me, he'll get right back to you.
Argentinian Pope, that's very... I mean, like you, John, I was hoping for a Brazilian Pope, for a flair Pope.
A flair Pope.
Popaldino, but we didn't get that. But if Argentinian Catholicism is anything like Argentinian football, he's probably not afraid of a challenge. And that is a good quality in a Pope, because there are a lot of challenges facing the Catholic Church. Spiritual renewal, he talked about, and that's only true, because somewhere along the line, in parts of the Catholic Church, Jesus' teachings of peace, tolerance, love, and avoiding institutionalised child abuse scandals, and even more institutionalised cover-ups of those scandals, have occasionally not been applied with quite as much religious fervour as they might have been. He warns that the Catholic Church would become, quotes, a compassionate NGO without spiritual renewal. Now, which is a slightly odd thing to say, really.
Yeah.
And also as if compassion is something that they cannot possibly afford to be associated with.
Yeah, because would being a compassionate NGO really be that bad? When you're warning people against something, aren't you supposed to use an example that doesn't sound inherently appealing? Unless we confess to Christ, we'll become the food equivalent of a creamy chocolate eclair. And no one wants that, right? Hold on. Whose stomach just rumbled? I don't think you're getting the point that I'm trying to get across here.
When I actually read it, I thought that's what he said that his aspiration was. It's like, now my new reign is in, we're going to become a great compassionate NGO. I thought, brilliant. Yeah, that's the opposite of what he wants.
No, that was the absolute endpoint of the worst hypothetical decisions that could be made. It was the opposite of what he was saying.
And he explained it by saying what would happen would be like when children make sandcastles and then it all falls down. Well, for a start, I think the Catholic Church has had enough trips to the beach with children, but also, what happens when children make sandcastles and they fall down is usually you go back to the hotel and get some supper before saying, OK, kids, you've had 3 days on the beach. Tomorrow it's Mummy and Daddy's turn to choose. We're going to a fucking water park.
Much has been made of Pope Francis' lifetime of work with the poor in Argentina and his commitment to a humble lifestyle. He lived among the poor back home, choosing not to take the opulent residence that he was absolutely entitled to as Bishop of Buenos Aires. He rode a bus to work, wore an ordinary robe, and lived with an older priest in a simple apartment where he cooked his own meals. He's a famously humble man, Andy, not fond of flashy things, which really makes you think, well, good luck living in the fucking Vatican then. Because that place is the epitome of opulence. That place makes most rappers' mansions look like humble Argentinian priest dwellings. It's literally designed to make you think, oh, wow, if they're this successful, maybe there's something in this whole Catholic thing.
Does suggest that he might be thinking about, a lick of paint in the Sistine Chapel, just a kind of plain magnolia colour.
Right, exactly.
It's too flash, isn't it?
It's too flashy. Yeah. Let's just get a kind of a corn yellow in there, just over the... Just an eggshell white. You know what? Corn yellow is too flashy. Just let's go eggshell white.
Maybe a yucca plant in the corner or some dried flowers.
His first tweet, this Pope, was Habemus Papam Franciscum, Which, look, let's be honest, that sounds like a spell, Andy. Was he trying to turn a cardinal into a frog? Or was he trying to erase everybody's memory of the last 20 years? Translated from the Latin, it means, we have a new Pope Francis. And I like that, Andy, especially if he keeps referring to himself for his whole papacy in the third person. Pope Francis feeling great today. Pope Francis just prayed up a storm. Pope Francis got hungry, so Pope Francis just demolished a carbonara. And his final tweet, the devil, he try acting up, but Pope Francis don't play that shit. Hashtag for realsies.
Also, being an Argentinian Pope, probably not afraid of a big chunk of beef, which is good news for him, John, because a couple of hundred years away from his new home in St. Peter's Square is a sensationally good steakhouse with a fridge full of dead cow by the entrance. So I assume he's going to be heading straight down there. Absolutely straight there. Pope Francis has named himself after St. Francis of Assisi, who was the patron saint of animals, often portrayed with a bird on his hand, possibly explaining why he's also the patron saint of hand washing and the patron saint of latex gloves. The very famous story about St. Francis, John, travelling with his buddies, and he came across some trees that were jam-packed full of birds. So he told his pals to stop whilst he preached to his sisters, the birds, and the birds came flocking down to him. Hey, look, folks, he said, they flocked to me, the little flappy flap hounds. I think they really love my voice because I'm amazing. Sure, St. Francis said his friends. You might like to factor in the fact that you're wearing a jacket made of seeds. Yeah, so I like to dress snappy, said St. Francis. What's wrong with that? Well, you're going to have to buy a new jacket. That's all. All right, Aristotle, put a f***ing sock in it, just because you can't hold a tune.
God, it's a great book, isn't it, Andy? It's been a while since either of us have read it, but it's a great book. Although dour in appearance, this Pope apparently has a sense of humour. Apparently so. At his first dinner as Pope on Wednesday night, he reportedly toasted his fellow cardinals with a prayerful quip, "May God forgive you for what you have done." And that's a bold joke, Andy, because that may have been a tense moment for a cardinal or two in there. Oh, shit, how did you find out about that? I thought I got away with it. I was so careful. Oh, wait, what are you talking about? Oh. Yeah, you were joking about us picking you as Pope. Yeah, me too. I was definitely joking too. I was just acting like someone who has a terrible secret that he'd been keeping for decades as a goof. I love jokes. Oh, can someone pass me an extra napkin, please? It's feeling very hot in here.
Interestingly, the Vatican have finally revealed what goes into the to create the smoke that is revealed, that reveals whether or not a pope has been chosen. They have the black smoke for when he's not been chosen, and the white smoke for when they have made the decision. Both, according to the New York Times report, made with fairly standard pyrotechnic formulas. Black smoke made using potassium perchlorate, anthracene, that's a component of coal tar, and also the name of one of Tom Cruise's children. Sulfur, the name of another one of Tom Cruise's children. Whereas the white smoke is made using potassium chlorate, milk sugar, which apparently is an easily ignitable fuel, and pine rosin, plus, to give it its distinctive white colour, 1 kilogram of cocaine, 3 polar bear cubs, and a small cricketer. But interestingly, do you know this? Legally, smoking bans cannot be legally enforced on Catholics if they claim they're thinking about electing a new pope whilst puffing on their cigarette.
Yeah, that is a good idea. Just, I wonder who it's going to be.
Of course, there's been a great international reaction to it. A lot of people expressing delight that there's a pope from a new part of the world. And as you'd expect, a lot of the great and the good of the world have been wading in with their opinions, including the official spokesman for humanity, that is the former wrestler, the Iron Sheik.
Yes. Who
has appeared on recent Bugles and has fast elevated himself into the absolute A-list of Bugle celebrities. He tweeted this because it's his birthday today as we record, John. He's 70 years old today, and he tweeted this: "If the Pope don't call me, wish me the happy birthday. I never respect him, and I beat the f***ing shit out of him. Make him humble."
What I found myself increasingly doing, Andy, is looking back over major moments in recent history, and then looking back over the tweets from that time from the Iron Sheik, because it's interesting to see him reacting in real time to unfolding events. For instance, before the papal announcement on Wednesday, you could tell that it was shaping up to be an important day, as his first tweet that day was, "F*** the Wednesday." That's his idiosyncratic take on Good Morning.
Maybe he's just a Sheffield United fan. We don't know.
Then after the white smoke was released, but before the name of the new pope was announced, he tweeted, "Respect to me. They have the white medicine smoke and I'd be happy. I'd be the new pope. Everyone go f*** yourself if you don't vote for the legend." Because, incidentally, Andy, if the Iron Sheik was pope, he would be the first Iranian and only the 84th crazy person elected as pope. At this point, he's done enough, Andy. There's no need for him to tweet again for the rest of the day. We couldn't reasonably expect any more from him. But a while later, he tweeted, and I quote, "F*** the breadcrumb dick Satan."
Which is pretty much, John, that's the subtext of Pope Francis's inaugural speech. They're very much on the same page, just using different language.
It would have been a phenomenal way for Pope Francis to have ended his first blessing, Andy, just wrapping up saying, "I will now give my blessing to you and to the whole world, to all men and women of goodwill. Brothers and sisters, I am leaving you. Thank you for your welcome. Pray for me, and I will be with you again soon. We will see one another soon. Tomorrow I want to go to pray the Madonna that she may protect Rome. Good night, and sleep well. Oh, and f*** the breadcrumb dick Satan." Is this on? Is this thing on?
The thing is, because he was doing it in Latin, he could easily have got away with it, John. I don't think anyone would have picked it up. In fact, I don't think anyone knows what he actually said, because, no one's actually spoken Latin for 2,000 years or so. And people are just assuming. They just could take an educated guess on what it is he's banging on about.
As you say, there were warm wishes, warm welcomes for the new pope from all over the world. But my favourite statement came from Mahmoud Azab, who's the official spokesman for Al-Azhar, Sunni Islam's highest seat of learning, whose statement simply read, "We are hoping for better relations with the Vatican after the election of the new pope." And the beauty of that statement, Andy, is that you can pretty much cut and paste it from any time in the last 1,000 years. I wonder if they literally dust that sentence off every time a new pope is announced and then release it with a long sigh. "We're hoping for better relations with the Vatican after the election of a new pope." Oh, boy. Oh, boy, oh, boy.
One of the most interesting pieces of reaction came from Pope Francis's very own sister, who told a newspaper that that he had confided in her that he never wanted to become pope.
Oh, no, that's two in a row. That's two in a row, Andy.
Maria Elena Bugle, who's 12 years younger than the 76-year-old pontiff, said that he never wanted to be pope and now faced, quotes, "a lifetime of infinite loneliness." Now, was that in the job advert for a start? Wanted, very old, preferably unmarried man to be PR executive for prominent global franchise. Salary, £20,000 plus generous pension of eternal bliss. Must be able to say oops, sorry in at least 10 different languages. Strict dress code, no dress down days, but he can work from home. Must be prepared for a lifetime of infinite loneliness. Also, that's just not what you want your sister to say when you've just started a new job. That's not helping, is it? I mean, looking at it, someone is not getting a Christmas present this year. She's blown it, John. And she could have been in line for a real doozy this year, now that her brother is the earthly representative of Santa Claus. Besides, I did always think a lifetime of infinite loneliness was an old Catholic advertising slogan, and also a review for one of my Edinburgh shows.
Apparently, Pope Francis plans to visit his predecessor, Benedict, although it won't be in the next couple of days. Correspondents have been describing this as an important visit when it happens, pointing out that the existence of a living retired pope has prompted fears of a possible rival power. So the visit clearly means only one thing, Andy: a papal fight to the death. 2 popes enter, 1 pope leaves. Because nothing could calm people down more, Andy, I'm sure, than seeing Pope Francis emerge from that meeting in a blood-stained robe saying, "It is done." There can only be uno pope.
Now, interestingly, he was the first Jesuit pope ever.
Yes.
Now, a lot of people have said that, and I'm sure a lot of buglers like me, have absolutely no idea what a Jesuit is. So we're going to have a competition. If you can answer this multiple choice question correctly, tell us what is a Jesuit, you will win yourself a cardinal. So, it's more actually, how did the name Jesuit come about? Was it A, because they began as priests who dressed up in Jesus suits, hence the abbreviation Jesuit, which became pronounced Jesuit? Was it B, because from the early Christians who were persecuted by Romans, and as well as fighting lions in the arena, they would also be forced to take part in alcohol drinking contests, and they would warn their Roman oppressors when plastered to the brink of oblivion that they would reap divine vengeance with the words, Jesuit, Jesuit. Was it C, because the Jesuits were originally a French order of monks renowned for their devotion to their literal pin-up boy, Jesus Christ, and whenever they played their trademark Who Am I guessing game, they would begin by saying, Je suis, and someone would immediately buzz in and guess, Jesus? Inevitably, they'd be right, and a disappointed audience would tut in disappointment, hence the origin, Je suis. Or was it D, because they're a Roman Catholic order founded by St. Ignatius of Loyola in 1534 to defend Catholicism against the Reformation and to do missionary work amongst the heathen? So, A, B, C or D?